Hello everyone. Okay, so this is a video where we're going to create a comic book action logo. So this is the onomatopoeia, words that sound like themselves, such as boom, or splat, blam, or etc., etc., kapow, things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to go through with step-by-step instructions with the tools that are needed to be able to create your own comic book action word. So, and you can even include imagery if you would like. It's up to you. I'm going to be moving the camera around a little bit, but it's totally up to you. You can pause whenever you need to, and continue on as necessary. So the tools that you're going to need, there are some, so let's get to that. So you're going to need erasers, you're going to need scissors, you're going to need pencils. I recommend a few, and make sure that they're sharpened well. Make sure they're sharpened well, because we're going to be using them to shade. You're going to need tape. I'm using masking tape, but you can use just any sort of household tape. I would say use a ruler. I have colored pencils, but if you don't have colored pencils, crayons will work just as well. But also there's Sharpies. And if you have, I have a whole selection of Sharpie paint markers. It's totally up to you. It's okay. So I'm going to put the camera here so that way we can go through. All right. So as we're working, what we're going to need is some scrap paper. Now the scrap paper is just regular paper that I have that I don't use anymore. It's just excessive paper that was going to be thrown out, but I'm going to reuse it anyway. Some of the other things that you might want, I have Stronger's cardstock paper that can be used as well for the final product. Then I have cardboard. These are actually from pizza. You can cut these down to the shape that you like. This is not absolutely necessary, but again, if you want it to be more stiff, more strong, you could totally do that. The next, I have, with my scrap paper, I'm going to start to design and draw what I need, what I would like. I haven't decided just yet, but I have a couple of ideas what I want to do. So if I'm going to take my paper, let's just do one sheet. I'm going to use this one. So what I want to do is I start to get my lettering, start to get my words. So this, I think I'm going to say, this one's going to say whack. So it's W-H-A-C-K. So there's, how I want to write it, I want to utilize the entire page. I don't want to make it small. I don't want to leave it just in one section. I want to use the entire page for the design. So if whack is 5 letters, if A is the center, so I'm going to try to gently, lightly get my A somewhere around here. So then I have a C, I have an H, I have a W, and a K. So I'm trying to have it on an angle, a nice curve, so that way it has a little bit of movement to it. So I'm going to try to make it more bubbly. I'm going to make it 3-dimensional, maybe. Definitely I'm going to have it so that way parts of the letters has a thickness to them. It's not just one thin line, which is what we would normally write with a pencil. Again, I'm writing lightly. I'm not going super strong. I don't need it to be very thick yet, but we will get to that. So now that I have my lettering, I might want to have a background. So the background, I decided I wanted to do, so to make it look like an action word, make it look like a POW kind of a thing. Some sort of explosion type of thing. some examples that I will show in a second. So there's my whack. That's not too bad. I don't know if you can see it from there, but as I drew it, some of the examples that I have, let's pull those out. I have here's some of the words. I know sometimes it's finding the right word can be difficult. Sometimes imagination and creativity hits a stumbling block. So you have pow, zap, boom, kapow. That's a very big one. Here I have the big kapow, and I like that they use different things, like the smoke, the line for the explosion, an exclamation mark. And then here we see another version of it as it's finished, colored in. We'll get to that. That's going to be like the last stage. So some of the others that I have, pop, crack, boom, bam, pow. Again, more of the pow, boom, bams. What I like about some of these, some of them very, very simplistic. And then the others, like the crack in that one, has cracks in it. The zap has kind of the lines that indicate somewhat of a zap. The boom has kind of explosions to it. So there's a whole bunch of possibilities and ideas that you can come up with. If you can't come up with ideas, Google it. Look up comic action words. Put in boom and see what things come up. So I like the kaboom there. That was pretty cool. So that's where I got the idea for the circle explosion. So here's more of the booms and the kapows. If you want to have more than one word, you can do that. And you see how this one's decorating the entire aspects around the page. Boom, bam, bing. Again, I like the word crunch here because it has lots of cracks in it. It looks like the crunch is part of it. A lot of pows, very popular. The splat has a splatter in there. The wham, it has kind of like someone being socked at you. It's coming at you. There's a lot of movement to it. So these are some pretty cool ones. The zap, it looks like it has electrical kind of a zap thing going. So there's a lot of possibility of what can be done. Okay. So once you have that figured out, once you have your word, like I have mine right here. Again, it's lightly done. It doesn't have to be totally darkened. You don't want to press too hard with the pencil. But as we work with it, you might decide to make changes. And this is the important part of why we need to work with lightly and with our scrap paper. The scrap paper is just that. It's scrap. It's not the final version. It's an opportunity for you to be able to erase if need be. I can see that there's things that I don't really like on there. But then we can, once we get to a more finalized version, you can go in a lot darker. Like I think some of my little lines here aren't as extensive as they could be. I think some of them, I think I need to have a couple that are a little bit shorter and then others that are longer. But once you get this done, and this is just my example piece for now, once you get this done, you're going to want to take your paper and you're going to flip it over. And on the back side of your paper, again, the scrap doesn't matter. But what you need to do, and having this is not the best to work with right now, I'm going to go with a regular, normal number 2 pencil. And what you're going to do is you're going to not put it on a tip. You're going to put it on its side. And then I'm going to start to shade. And I want to shade the entire back of the scrap paper. So if I shade the entire piece, eventually I'll get it to look like this. So once it looks like that, we're ready for the next step. So the next step is you're going to take your final version. Now your final version can be many different things. I assume if you're going to be working from home, most of you are going to be using paper. So I'm going to use this cardstock that's a little bit stronger than regular. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to place it down, and then I'm going to take my tape. Again, I'm using masking tape. You don't have to use masking tape. You can use regular Scotch tape, whatever you have around the house. That's fine. And then I'm going to tape this down in the corners. Nope, it's off. Once I tape that down, now it's secure, it's not going to move around. Now I'm going to go over the lines that I drew before and watch what happens. So if I go over my K, I wish I had an exclamation mark actually. Oh well, I can go back and do that later. So now if I take off if I move the tape, you can see that the graphite on the back side of the paper has transferred over to this side, to this good paper. Okay, so now what I would want to do is, again, keep that down, and I'm going to go over the entire lettering and everything that I've done. And if you're not sure, like, did I do this? Did I not do that section? Just take your tape gently, pull it up to see if you had done, oh, I did do that line, but I didn't do this line. And once that is done, then you have that completely transferred over onto your quality, good piece of paper. Then we can take the whole thing off. I didn't finish, as an example, but, so you couldn't do everything. If you work with certain materials, like some of the paper, when you work with it, it doesn't erase as well. And again, that's why it's good to use scrap paper, so that way any mistakes that you make, you can erase on the scrap paper, you don't have to worry about. By the end of it, when you transfer it over, it won't leave any mistakes onto your good paper. So if I were to do the whole thing, I would have my entire whack. Then I would go in with I can use a Sharpie. I think I'm going to do this one in Sharpie markers, because I think that's probably most of what you guys would have at home. So the Sharpie, this one, if you could see, the tip is all damaged. Now I can't stand that. Oh, it gets frustrating. So this one I'm not a big fan of. I'm going to go with this guy here. Let's see what we got. Much better. A much better tip. So you don't have to press extremely hard with this. And with the Sharpie, now if I make a mistake, now it's going to be permanent. So I'm just going to take my time on this. Okay. And then I can go in through here. And I would be able to finish the entire piece. Again, this is just one example of part as I'm doing this workshop for you, but some of the other pieces and examples that I have would be my splat sign. So I wrote my letters, and then I went through, this one I used the Sharpie paint markers. These are actually paint. So it creates, quite a nice effect. All the color is very uniform. It's the same throughout. So that's one example. The other example would be my kaboom sign. So in this one, I used very warm colors for the lettering and the explosion, and in the background is more of a cool color, a blue. And I started by showing you all my boom. So the boom, you see how the O's in boom are actual bombs. So that works out beautifully. I have cracks in the piece behind it as well. So you can get inventive with that. Have fun, go to town with it. There's a lot of different things that you can do. I do have a couple of examples that I can show you very briefly on my computer. So here again, that is the Compow, unfinished. They're just the black and white, transferred over, and then when you color it, you have fun with it. Here's another kaboom. So I like that there's little dust clouds, the little stars, the long extending lines there for the explosion. So I like this kaboom too, because again, you have like these rays coming out and the explosion that's in the center. But what makes this one really effective also is that you have warm colors, orange, yellow, surrounded by cool colors, blue, purple. It makes this and the words stand out a lot more. So I like my vroom. I just found this one. It is in the movement, and the line indicates movement as it's going, along with the little dust clouds. Same with this vroom. So it really gives it the sense of action like a car. Or if you want to you can actually put in, along with your words, you can put in the scree, you can put in the car. You can make it more like a comic book as well. And I think that's all that I have for you. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you all have a great time working with this. And I hope you all come up with some amazing ideas.